school leavers into the industry by giving them experiences at hotels. These are 14, 15, 16-year-olds.
What do you think in the perhaps more traditional full-service properties like the Lowry? What are guests looking for? Have their expectations changed in recent years?
I think owners of properties and owners of hospitality are trying to find a more economical model where they can move forward and see better returns for their money. I was in Singapore, I was in Warsaw, Poland, I was in Budapest, I was in Azerbaijan and Bali, so we've had some good experiences in different hotels.
Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Adam Hamadash. I'm absolutely delighted to have Adrian Ellis with me today on the Hotel Growth podcast. Adrian, who has recently retired, he was a general manager at the Lowry Hotel up in Manchester for, I believe, 10 years, and now is running his own consultancy business, but is also very much involved with the Hospitality Connect, which I'm sure we're going to hear all about. Adrian, you've obviously been in the industry for some time now that you've got to retirement point. I'd love to just first of all welcome you to the podcast and love to hear a little bit about your experience in our fabulous industry.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, Adam. It's great to join you today. Yes, I've been I started 45 years ago, so I've been in the industry a very long time, running hotels both in the UK and abroad. I had best part of 17 years working abroad, but more recently I've been back in the UK running the Lowry Hotel in Manchester. And as you pointed out, I retired this summer and going on to do, well, one of my own consultancy business, so looking and helping hotels develop. I'm working with the owners of the Lowry Hotel. I'm still staying up with them, doing some consultancy business. And I'm also, very, very excitedly, I'm working on this Hospitality Connect, which is all about bringing school leavers into the industry by giving them experiences at hotels. These are 14, 15, 16-year-olds. Giving them experiences at hotels and basically from that experience in getting them to hopefully sign up for college courses in hospitality, travel and tourism, hotel and catering, spa, hair and beauty, so that they take a journey into hospitality, and hopefully this helps our recruitment challenges, which I'm sure you're very well aware of.
Very, very much so, and I think it's very much needed, isn't it? I mean, I think when we first met some years ago as part of the Hoteliers Charter, I think it was, and the involvement there. I think what really appealed to me about the charter, obviously put initially forward by Sally Beck, was that we want to sort of present hospitality and hotels as an actual meaningful career choice, where I think it's not as obvious. And I guess anything that we can do to encourage young people into the industry is a good thing. I assume, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I assume, given your approach with this new organisation, you sort of see that gap and you feel that there's not enough happening.
Yeah, as it stems, you're right, from the Hoteliers Charter, which was that whole charter was brought about to try and improve the reputation and the image of the industry. And we found that some of the schools, both the teaching staff, the careers teachers and the students themselves, probably didn't have a great awareness of the hotel industry, what's on offer, the type of jobs that they can do, the type of careers that they can move into. So the experiences we give them, for example, there might be our chef might be doing a demonstration. There might be a bed making competition. So just to make it a bit fun and housekeeping a bit fun, it might be, for example, how to book a wedding, or it might be a stint in the spa. So all of these experiences were just a little snapshot, if you like, of the industry. And if then that student felt, well, that's a really interesting career, and then we do a similar sort of campaign where we get the parents to come to the hotels and show them some of our long-term individuals that have made a career out of either running housekeeping or running front office or running food and beverage. And then hopefully that then encourages both the parents and the students then to sign up. As I said, the students then will sign up for a college course, and that then sets them off in the journey into hospitality. So it's all about improving the image, creating better awareness, and hopefully stimulating some enthusiasm by doing some of these activities that students enjoy.
Fantastic. And if I'm not mistaken, you're of Australian heritage, is that right?
No, I'm not. I don't know if there's an Australian twang there, but no, I'm very much from the UK. From my home is from Norfolk. I did spend some time in Australia a long time ago, but only for about a year. No, I'm from Norfolk in the south.
Okay, well, I've certainly got that right. I always felt you had a bit of an Australian twang, but perhaps it's old habits die hard.
Maybe,
Um,
maybe.
But okay, so where I was going with that is that I didn't know if you'd spent a lot of time abroad and as a result had seen how other countries are actually, encouraging young people into the industry. I don't know if you have any experience on that.
Yes, well, we worked. I had a lot, many years. Nearly 17 years. I was in Singapore. I was in Warsaw, in Poland. I was in Budapest. I was in Azerbaijan and
Mm,
Bali. So we've had some good
okay.
experiences in different hotels. And in terms of bringing young people, I wouldn't necessarily say better. Maybe in Singapore they've got a closer connection with the schools than we have here. But I certainly felt there was a big missing element of education here in this country, in
Mm,
that we don't see the school leavers having, even down to the career teachers not really recommending hospitality per se. So we felt it was a big opportunity, and when this all came out to the back of the pandemic, when in Manchester there was something like 4,000 vacancies in hospitality in the city,
mm,
and we were already working quite closely with universities and colleges, but felt schools were somehow missing. And indeed, once we got talking to school teachers and heads of schools,
mm.
they said, actually, no, nobody's coming around to us. There's a big opportunity there. So they work with the Gatsby benchmark, which measures schools on how well they're working with industry and employers. So they were delighted to work with us, and then things have snowballed. It's our fifth year now in Manchester on this scheme, and we've now got Savoy Education funds now to grow this across the UK. So
Amazing.
we'll have 15 regions or cities doing the similar sort of program by the end of this year. So we're trying to get this UK wide, as you can see from that ambition.
Hmm.
Starting well in Manchester with 30 schools and 30 schools and hotels working together. But the
Right.
plan is to get 30 regions, if we can, over the next 2 years, up and down the country, and everybody doing the same thing, and that potentially thousands of school students exposed to our industry and the opportunities that exist.
Fantastic. And are you going to find any time for retirement in between all of
Of
this?
course. In between, well, as I mentioned earlier, Savoy Education Trust very kindly funded us for a 2-year program, which we hope to extend, and that's given the opportunity to employ somebody full time. So we've employed a lady called Laura Johnson, who is working exclusively on our behalf. So it's a full time position, and she's doing all the matching of hotels with schools. She's launching the program in different parts of the UK. So yes, I'm very much involved in the program because we see this as a great future opportunity with school leavers coming into the industry. But Laura's on this full time, and it will leave a little bit of time for me to do the things you normally do in retirement.
I hope you get some well earned time off
Thank
in the
you.
coming months and years.
I'm sure I will do.
Good. Well, let's dive into what you feel is the challenges. Obviously, this is being recorded in October 2024. If I'm not mistaken, you sort of finished your post a couple of months ago. Is that
Yes,
right?
that's right. In August, yes.
Yeah. So obviously, you're very consciously aware, I'm sure, of the challenges that were facing your hotel and others around the UK and the wider industry. What do you see are the biggest challenges right now?
Well, I think economical challenges have been really challenging since the pandemic. So revenues have been certainly outside of London. London might be a little bit of a separate story, but for Manchester, and I speak also on behalf of knowing the other cities in the north part of the UK,
Hmm.
and they go through similar patterns where business is very sporadic. So you have some very good weeks, some good months, and some very
Hmm.
poor weeks and poor months. So revenues, if you run that through the year, are very static compared to where they were in 19. So we're not seeing huge growth in revenues. But
Hmm.
of course, I think it won't be a big surprise for people to hear that costs have significantly increased. So everything from energy to labour costs increasing to raw materials. As you remember, only a few months ago, inflation was in double figures or double-digit
Hmm.
figures. So
Hmm.
we have been impacted significantly from an economic point of view, where margins have been eroded, and you see revenues plateauing and costs increasing. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge that we see.
Hmm.
On top of that, I think the workplace has been a very different landscape from, or also we remember pre-pandemic. So we're much more aware of mental health issues, and I think all employers, ourselves included at the Lowry when I was running it, we were very aware of the impact it can have coming back to work, and that people expect a slightly different thing from workspace and what the employer is providing. And I think it's been quite an adjustment for many employers trying to manage this new way of thinking, a new look of thinking for many of our employees. So I think things have changed, in my opinion, quite significantly since the pandemic, and adjusting to that new cost environment and adjusting to the way in which people are looking and what they're looking for at work. I think probably the two biggest things I can see that hotels and hospitality are adjusting to.
I have to say on the mental health point, certainly, I mean, obviously it's far more omnipresent as it should be, as a thing. Obviously it never really even used to be a thing that people were aware of. But I was speaking not long ago to Mark Lewis of Hospitality Action, and he. Obviously, they do some fantastic work in supporting our industry peers with predominantly mental health issues. And he was saying that the rise of sort of help and support and requests have been significant over the last couple of years. And I think just I suppose that sort of echoes really what you're saying. You're seeing as a general manager, sort of amidst your teams.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As you say, Hospitality Action are doing a fantastic job. Sadly, there has been quite a big increase in the number of cases that they have and that need supporting by the industry, and we definitely see that. And not only us. I used to chair the Manchester Hotel Association, so I see that in the other hotels that are in that association had similar sort of challenges. So it's something we were less aware of, I guess, and since the pandemic, more aware of, and we need to adjust. Of course, it's because it's a new trait, we see something new in the environment for us to manage. Hotels and employers have to adjust accordingly. So we've been doing that and continue to do that, I think, in many of the businesses that I'm talking to.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And in terms of. So where do you see it going? So I'm hearing this a great deal. I appreciate that your role isn't quite as active as it perhaps was at the start of the year. Do you see that revenues will actually start to look after themselves? Do you see that costs are coming down, or do you think that actually this is kind of it now for a while, and we've kind of got to learn to live with these new difficult margins that effectively hotels are having to operate?
No, very, very good question. I think there's a bit of a blend of both of those things. I think in the short term, so maybe over the next 1 or 2 years, you see inflation's now down to, we're hoping to get down to sort of a very low level of 2 to 3%, and hopefully that makes it a little bit easier for businesses to run. And energy prices are perhaps not as they were really high, as you remember, in 22, 23, so not quite as high going forward. So I think there will be a little bit of softening of the costs going forward. However, what's done is done, and I think people are trying to manage that going forward. I'd also think revenues will improve a bit. If I take Manchester, which is quite a resilient city, I think there will be an increase in the number of events that are happening in the city. There seems to be more of an appetite for big conferences and big events coming to the city. The Co-op Live opened there recently, which is a massive stadium attracting new groups and music groups. So I think there will be a rise in revenue. So I do think all those things you mentioned at the very start of the question. So I think revenues will improve over the next couple of years. And I also think costs will soften a bit. However, I do think there's an adjustment to be made, especially if you're a full service business. So many of the full service businesses, like, for example, the Lowry has 200 employees. And how are they going to be thinking about how they manage that going forward? So if you're a part hotel, for example, or a minimum service product, then maybe you can adjust quicker than the full service. The full service one have a bigger thinking to do around how to manage this, because trying to return to the profits that you had pre-pandemic, I think will be challenging for many of those businesses, especially where you had a full service property.
Yeah, and sorry, just for total clarity, then full service you would sort of class as a more traditional hotel where you've got sort of room service, 24-hour receptions, those types of amenities.
Yeah, exactly. Where you're running 4 to 5 star, where you're either running 24-hour service or you're running full services, including, as you said, concierge, spa, full service, or events, and so on. So these, I think, will be more challenged because, you have several factors which are impacting the costs in those elements, but also revenues have plateaued. So whilst I think there will be an increase, as I mentioned earlier, and a softening of costs, there's still some thinking to do, especially if the owners of those properties expect to see returns back to what they were pre-pandemic.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned as well the sort of, I suppose, the leaner offering, the apart hotel type
Yes.
products. I was speaking with a hotelier who's a long term friend of mine. We've known each other for about 10 years, and he's just in the process of buying an old property that he plans to basically, the product itself is pretty strong, but strip out all the staff, throw in some kitchenettes, and offer that sort of apart hotel concept.
Right.
And the conversation that we were having is the market ready for it? It's not, it's not in one of the major towns, and actually all the market research, certainly all the anecdotal feedback that I'm hearing is yes, that there is a booming industry now of customers that actually, whilst there'll always be demand for products like the Lowry and as you say,
Yes.
the full service offering, the demand for the apart hotel concept seems to be
Yes.
growing profoundly. Have you seen the same in
Yes, I've seen,
Manchester?
and you
Or?
see it also in Europe when you travel abroad.
Mm,
You see, that apart concept is growing significantly. Especially the other thing that you see in Europe, and less so in this country, is where a hotel or hotel product, for example, just offers breakfast and then doesn't really offer lunch or dinner service, expecting the guests then to use the facilities in the city or the
yeah.
location where that hotel's located. And I think that'll also happen in this country too. I think you'll see more city centres hotels offering very, still nice quality accommodation and a very nice product, but limited services in order to counter this quite sharp increase in cost which we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years. So,
Yeah.
having said all that, you were also right in pointing out that there's still a demand for 5 stars. So, the Lowry Hotel was still doing extremely well and continues to do so. And if you go to central London, you can still see the premium end still doing extremely well. So I
Yes.
still think there's a market for people who are looking for that full service, everything 24 hours, and the other facilities you can see in a 5 star hotel. So I still think there's a market for it. But I think owners of properties and owners of hospitality are trying to find a more economical model where they can move forward and see better returns for their money.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. Before I move on, I just wanted to probe into this area a little bit more, if I may. We've obviously talked a little bit today about the conditions, the trading conditions as a result of the pandemic,
Yeah.
of which there are many. Prior to the pandemic, the fundamental issue seemed to be chefs, just not
Right.
enough of them,
Yeah.
and that seems to certainly be the case now. I
Yeah.
wonder if, forgive me if it's a bit of a curveball question, but what's your experience in that area? Is it difficult to find and retain chefs when you're at the Lowry, or indeed that you heard
Yeah, no,
from
I
other
think
speakers?
that's definitely not gone away. It's still challenging today, and not so much so. I think straight off the pandemic, you're right. There was what happened is a lot of people left the industry.
Mm,
A lot of young people, I think, joined the agencies. I mean, from a
hmm
chefing point of view,
hmm
and they had the flexibility then go work where they liked, when they liked, and they were paying quite well.
mm,
And then I think across the country, you saw a huge shortage of chefs everywhere.
yeah.
It's improved a bit, so numbers have grown a bit,
Okay.
and perhaps that reliance on agencies is not quite as good as it was. So it's plateaued a bit. But if you ask me if there's still challenges in the industry with finding quality chefs and keeping them, very much so. And
hmm
take the growth as well, so especially a city like Manchester. We're opening another 10 hotels next year. Something like 20 to 25 restaurants opening in a year as well. So, of course, all those require chefs and front of house staff. So it puts more pressure on the market to try and find and keep good people. So,
Mm,
yeah, we're continually trying to find, at our property, we went down to a 4-day week for the chefs to try and get a better work life balance. Of course, salaries are
hmm
always is important, and just retaining talent. Every time a new restaurant or hotel opens, the grass can seem greener and people want to move on and experiment. Of course, that's human nature.
Yeah.
But it is still, it's better than it was, but it's still a big challenge for the industry.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. On the 4-day week, I've heard other properties a bit further south where I'm based do very similar things, and give that work-life balance, as you say, has given the retention that they've needed of their top talent, particularly in the kitchens.
One thing we've started here, which I hope also could be something we may be able to replicate. We started here 2 years ago a chef's academy, sponsored by Manchester Hotel Association. And the idea is that each property takes one or two apprentices. The apprentices are at college 1 day a week. They're paid a full-time salary, of course, by the hotel. They're doing a year and a half apprenticeship program. It's an enhanced apprenticeship. So during that course of the year, there's guest chefs doing talks. They do supplier visits. There's dinners and so on at the college and at hotels. So it's an enhanced apprenticeship scheme. And the idea is that those apprentices, there was 12 in the first year, hopefully 15 in this coming year. They will be the future supply for hotels in the region. So, whilst we recognise there's been a problem, we've also, as a group, have tried to tackle that problem by creating our own sort of academy, which hopefully will be long-lasting in this city, and we may be able to find future ones elsewhere in the UK.
That's fantastic. That's the first I've heard of it, that from an association that has set up their own initiative, and a great example, I think, Adrian, if I may say so, of hoteliers working together to solve the problem. Not working against each other in there.
No. I think I can't speak for other associations, of course, but in Manchester we've got a very collaborative approach, I think, to many of the things from education down to getting business and working together on various initiatives like sustainability and so on. So it's a good group.
Fantastic. Well done. Let's talk about OTAs then. Obviously, if we're talking about costs, the OTAs continue for many hotels to be a significant chunk in their P&L each month. What have you found to sort of limit their use over your years of experience?
You're right. It's a big cost. Commissions we pay out, especially that the Lowry is not part of a big chain. It's an independent hotel with Singaporean owners. We have to find a balance, I guess, between working with OTAs to generate that last minute business that many hotels and we also needed, and also keeping the costs low. So we've been very aware of the cost part and how it impacts our business. We've been trying to move customers through onto our own website. So we've a good website that's been redeveloped this year, and moving people onto our own website. So we take away that commission element, I guess, is the biggest thing we've been, not just last year, but over recent years, is trying to move people over to our own website. So we encourage individual guests. We promote, of course, our own website. We've tried to make our website I guess more user-friendly, the functionalities quicker, easier to use, the mobile site is easier and quicker to use, and making the offers, of course, very attractive for the guests when they're on our site, so that they don't move across to an OTA to make that booking. So, it's a combination of those things is what we're trying to do to mitigate the higher costs that you refer to.
Okay, fantastic. And in terms of effectively, if I were to summarise that, your response, it would be sort of effective, kind of a better use of technology, particularly so that the customer has a better experience and
yes,
more
we're tracking I was, of course, when I was working, tracking the bounce rates, and I think we saw in previous times that was quite high. So we try to make sure that the offer we give is the best available. We also make sure that the booking process is quicker, easier to use, and therefore once people look there, the encouragement or the motivation to book there and then rather than go back off our site and onto other sites to make the booking is more attractive. So it's a continual quest. I wouldn't say we've won that battle, far from it. When you're up against some of the OTAs, of course, they have a lot more marketing spend than an individual property has. So it's never as easy as I'm making out, but we're on a quest to do that, yes.
And if I may just probe into that a bit further then, so has it been, or was it a case then that you were investing in creating your own sort of bespoke technology, like a bespoke booking engine, or just utilising different tools available from different providers?
Yes, the latter, using different tools from different providers to try and help stimulate that demand that we needed from our own website. So, websites, of course, are notoriously very expensive, of course, to set up. And we're now going through another round at the Lowry Hotel redeveloping our site because, of course, your site's only as good as the month you're in. So you have to continue looking at faster, quicker, better ways of the guests being able to navigate and find what they're looking for. And as I said, the other OTAs at the same time are also increasing their spend and their ability to get more customers. So it's a continual challenge, I guess. and one that the hotel, I'm sure it's still aware of it today and continues to do what I mentioned. You continue to invest in trying to make sure people can go to your site continuously. And the other thing is continual uses of it. So it's not just a one-time use. You want that customer to keep going back. So loyalty schemes and this type of thing also can have a powerful influence.
Yeah, absolutely. I think. Well, I'm certainly encouraged by that, and I'm sure other hoteliers will be. That you know, creating a really, really slick customer experience, user experience on your website is not necessarily. You don't. I mean, obviously, there's a cost to it, and as you say, a new website, for example, can be quite pricey.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily have to build everything bespoke. The tools
No.
by the tech partners in our industry have actually come on, certainly in my
Yes.
opinion,
Oh,
really
significantly.
well in the last few years.
They have you're absolutely right about the tech partners are the ones that make a big difference. They're the ones that are the specialists, I guess, and can advise and give you direction on what best to do and what better initiatives to do to try and build a business for your own site.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Well, let's talk about the guests then, and the guest experience. We kind of touched on a little bit about the emergence and the proliferation of the apart hotel concept, and customers being very happy to, sort of effectively kind of pay somewhat less for less of a full service. What do you think in the perhaps more traditional full service properties like the Lowry? What are guests looking for? Have their expectations changed in recent years?
Yeah, I think it's always evolving, isn't it, with guest expectations? And of course, timeless, I guess, is people who still expect fast, quick service, either at the front desk or the bar or the restaurant. So that's as I said, timeless. People still looking for a friendly and local welcome. So we also encourage that amongst our team members. Where I think things have changed is that sort of experiential part, which I think has evolved in the last 2 or 3 years. So people are probably not just looking for a bed, decent breakfast, and a drink in the evening. They're also looking for something more that the hotel might be able to offer. This might be, for example, a local initiative that you found in the particular city where the hotel's located. It might be an experience. It might be a behind-the-scenes tour. It might be a particular experience, whether it be culinary, arts, or cultural base. So we have at the Lowry Hotel, we have two guest experience managers, and they're continually looking to develop things that you can't find on the website yourself. So if you like the hidden Manchester. And this is which we think is very popular. It's more and more in demand, and people are looking for that when they come to stay and they've got a bit of free time. They're not just on business. They want to have something which is perhaps not your regular experience, but something that's given some thought, some creativity, and that will provide lasting memories for the guests. So we think these are worth investing in and will become more and more popular as time goes by.
So it's very much a case of the hotel or the brand working to not only obviously create that really great customer experience beyond the walls of the property, but really just being associated by becoming almost like a trusted advisor and saying
Right.
we can give you a lot more than our core offering. Is that
Yes, exactly right. And I'll give you an example. For example, a hotel, as you know, is called the Lowry Hotel, but there's also an art gallery devoted to Lowry at the Lowry Theatre, and they offer behind-the-scenes tour, which is more difficult for you to find on the website. But we have that as one of our availables. If people are interested, they can go and see the brushes and the palettes and so on that were used by Lowry when he was painting. And it's a bespoke tour that's been created by the hotel, offered to our guests, and something quite innovative and quite creative that guests enjoy very much. And we're all continually looking for this type of experience, which guests seem to hunt out, quite interested to find. And it's not just us. If I look at other hotels around the country, I think it's quite a common thing now for whether you're in the countryside looking for bespoke walking tours, or you're looking for something cultural to do or something particular attraction to do. It's all about creating memories for the guests, other than just the basics that a hotel can provide.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, that's great advice, and I think it's wonderful that you've taken that step to go above and beyond for your guests. Okay, well let's talk a little bit about priorities as a general manager for any GMs or budding GMs listening. Do you feel are the sort of like the key aspects of a hotel when you start a new role? What are you looking for to improve the profitability and the success of the business?
Yeah, I think when you first start, I think is to understand your team and the capabilities that the team have. It's a people business, isn't it? It's a bit of a cliche, but it's a people business, and you need to understand the capability of your team. So I think any new GM needs to understand who the team members are, what experience they have, what expertise they can offer, because this can make or break a business. So any new GM, I think, needs to. That was the first thing I do where I go, is to get the team together, learn about them, especially if you're working abroad, understand the cultural changes and the cultural differences, but also if you're here in the UK, understand the expertise that you've got on site. So I think that's probably the first thing. And then you're right, especially in this current climate, you need to look at what the challenges are and how to overcome them. So I think any property would look at, for example, sustainability is so important in any business at the moment. So looking at energy efficiency, especially with energy prices having reached an all-time high about a year or so ago, looking at efficiencies and how you can improve those. And this has a double whammy, doesn't it? You're saving costs, but at the same time, you're making your product more sustainable. So looking at those initiatives where you can possibly save money, but without harming the guest service, because at the end of the day, what you don't want to do is, whatever your product is to take away the guest service. You want to enhance it, but be smart about the way in which you do it. So, for example, energy or waste management, these can have a double whammy. They save money, they can also be sustainable, but you're not impacting the guest service per se. So I think looking at where you can make small wins, therefore improve your profitability, looking at the expertise that you have on your team, and then probably looking, I think, new property. Sometimes, I'm a good example. I've done 10 years in one property. I've handed over to a new GM, and a fresh pair of eyes is a good thing, in my opinion. So if somebody comes in and they may look around the space and feel, well, I can make that into a lounge or a guest experience, or I can create a different bar concept here, or whatever. So I think looking at the space you have and how can you make that either more profitable, more attractive, better guest service in terms of what you provide. These are the three things that I think are so important for new GMs to look at where they first arrive at a property.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think the authenticity around the sustainability piece is really important, because
Right.
we were discussing as a team only last week where it almost feels a bit disingenuous if you see that sign in the bathroom that says, please reuse your towels for sustainability, but of course there's tiny little plastic bottles everywhere. It just, something's not quite connecting. So I suppose the key point there is that if you're going to do it, you've got to be authentic about it and actually, look at all aspects of your business, would you say?
Yeah, and I think one of the big challenges, especially for 5 stars, one thing I talk about when I'm going on to conferences or meetings, and we chat also in the industry, is if you look at take 5 star, the top end, the luxury end of hospitality. There's been, I think, for many, many years, and probably still is the case a little bit today, where 5 star is synonymous with opulence. So people expect endless buffets, and for your room to be serviced 4 times a day, and for towels to be never ending and always replaced. So I think, in order to get to the initiatives that we're looking for sustainability, there's got to be a change in mind. And we do see it, and guests are much more understanding of the refillable bottle, for example, to reduce all plastic waste, or that there is no need for turn down unless you really request it, and or you can be more creative in your turn down service, or the buffet that you are offering is opulent for sure, but doesn't have to have 40 different types of bread, or 10 different types of cheeses. It can have a nice selection of maybe local produce, but without being wasteful in the way in which you present it. So I think the industry in general is certainly taking a longer look at how to provide a luxury service, but also be sustainable in its approach.
Yes, yeah, I couldn't agree more, and some really interesting insights that you've brought to that. So thank you. I'm going to finish with just last question around marketing. Obviously, it's an area I feel very passionate about, as you know,
Yeah.
and I'm interested to know what you feel are the sort of the must-have areas of marketing going into 2025, especially for independent hotels that won't necessarily have that sort of, the big brand or big website behind them. What do you feel are
Yeah,
the most
so
important
we've
things?
we've already touched on the first one. So very quickly to mention that
Yep.
the website in terms of making sure it's equipped for the era that you're in, so
Hmm.
functionality and how you're promoting, how you're offering, so you can capture that guest and capture the business. I
Hmm.
think is crucial for any business in terms of marketing plan. I think the other things which are important for us, we put a lot of emphasis on the local knowledge and local awareness. So we do a lot of networking, which is all part of our marketing strategy, and with local communities, the local corporate business, and the local council and so on. So we're doing a lot of local networking. I think it's important. We
Hmm.
still very engaged with the influencers and the influencer communities, and to promoting everything from spa to food and beverage to the special promotions and offers that we have. We also use a local PR company, and that continues to be the same today. And that has a greater reach, to, for example, to the more traditional magazines, newspapers, and articles that you read online. I think any strategy moving into 25 should be a combination of those. So great website, good connection with the local community in terms of how you're communicating and what your main strands of communication are. Great connection with influencers, and people can make a difference to how you're perceived in social media. And then the more traditional elements, which I still think there's a market for, having a great PR connection. We use a PR company for ourselves that can make sure you're omnipresent in terms of how you're communicating to the wider world.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds very holistic, and that was a very detailed answer. So thank you very much for that. I've got three quick fire questions just to
Okay.
finish off our
Okay.
conversation. So, what would you consider the top three metrics to look at either weekly or even daily as a GM?
So let's take daily. So this is be an actual example. So we look daily at average room rate, and
Hmm.
that sort of gives you an idea of where we're heading from a rate perspective. We look at our STR to see market share, and then
Hmm.
we also measure daily our guest service or our guest impact. So we see, and we take from multiple sources, from TripAdvisor and many of the other feedback sources, to give a holistic view, if you like, on guest service. So those are the three things I would probably look at each day.
Perfect, thank you. And if you could magically either increase rate, occupancy, or direct bookings, which would you choose?
Probably
And why?
direct bookings overall, for the reasons I mentioned before. I think, especially for an independent hotel, we're so aware of the commissions and especially in the environment I talked about earlier, with very high cost environment, and anything to reduce costs will be important for us. So, yes, it would be direct bookings to us, I think, would be my priority there.
Okay, perfect. And finally, what is the most important thing you feel is about being a successful general manager?
I think connection to your colleagues would
Mm.
be my number one thing. I think, at the end of the day, I said earlier, it's a cliche, but it's never changed in my 45 years of running a business.
Mm.
You work with a team of people. It's a large team for me at the Lowry, but even if it was a small team, knowing, working well, understanding, collaboration, all those things are so crucial. And knowing your team well, understanding and getting a good collaborative work environment, that's the most important thing, I think, for a general manager.
That's really, really helpful. Adrian, I won't keep you from retirement any longer. I thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome, Adam. It's
Um,
been an absolute joy talking to
right.
you, and
It,
thank you for inviting me.
it always is speaking with you, Adrian, and I wish you every success with the Hospitality Connect initiative. I think it sounds fantastic and just what the industry needs. So, very best of luck with it.
Very kind. Thank you, Adam.
All
Take
the
care.
best. Bye bye.
Bye bye now. Bye.